Mr. Beecham, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
We have no flag? Okay. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's the first time I ever pledged without a flag.
Let's hope roll call goes better. Call the roll, please.
Dr. Schutz, Mr. Jester,
Here.
Ms. Ronio,
Here.
Ms. John,
Here.
Mr. Sharon,
Here.
Mr. Colonel Hassenlop.
Here. Do we have any special guests or special recognitions tonight?
No special recognitions. Our guests are always special, and we appreciate you being here. But there are no recognitions this evening.
Architect's report.
None this evening.
Departmental report.
No, sir.
Your report then.
Thank you. Under item 7A, I just want to make a quick comment. As we go through tonight's agenda, you will notice in the consent agenda there are certificates for occupancy of several of our additions for you to, our certificates of completion, excuse me. Those will allow us to go ahead and move into those areas. A couple of them do not have occupancy certificates yet because there is a question regarding the fire extinguisher filament that sets off the rating on the heat. The fire marshal's working with us on that. As soon as that is resolved, they may have to replace the heads on that, but as soon as it is resolved, we will have certificates of occupancy. So our projects are coming to closure and we'll be moving into those. I will be asking you over the next couple of weeks to attend some open houses as we get close to school starting. I'd like to do it close to school starting so we could have staff and kids involved rather than it just being us out there in the heat by ourselves. So,
Now, are these on all of the?
yes, on all of the additions. Lawton High, MacArthur, Cleveland, Pioneer Park, of course, we've already done, Selva Village, and Eisner Elementary. Under item 7B, would ask you to consider the revisions as proposed. Mrs. Ellis has been working diligently on some policies, trying to get the policies updated language-wise so that they are correct in what they say and that we are practicing what we are putting in our policies. So if you will look on page 2 of your agenda under item 7B, it starts with the policies. You'll see most of these are just housekeeping policies. For example, on the school transportation, the changes that have been made, the 1.5 miles, that was actually done 2 years ago, and it just simply never got updated in the policy, but it's been the policy we've been using. And then under the secondary students, it was changed to 6th grade, and 7th was deleted because our secondary schools were changed. So as I said, most of these are housekeeping. On the next page, changing junior high to middle school, again, another housekeeping measure. Under the food procurement, you will see that some of the information has changed regarding referring to equipment and to the Oklahoma State Prime Vendor Contract or state contracting. All of that has been deleted because of some new federal regulations. Mark, anything you want to say about changes in the food procurement at this point? Or most of these are just simply as a reaction to new laws that are in place or housekeeping. Under the under the substitute salary schedule, you'll notice that we have published the $7.25 for hourly work. Just the minimum wage had to be updated. That previously had said just $7. Under teacher evaluation, obviously you approved the teacher evaluation back in March, the end of March, and we simply are bringing you the policy back now with the revisions. Interesting, page 10 in your agenda will show you how you cross out lines. You draw a line through a line, which is an interesting, has an interesting scenario. Page 11, evaluation of administrative personnel. Again, the language so that it fits with the evaluation document that we adopted back in March, And you can, anything that's crossed out, of course, is deleted, and anything that's underlined is added. Page 13, school hours. You'll notice we simply changed it to 2012, 2013 from being 2011, 2012. So that has been changed. And we changed the phrase not more than 30 to be at least 30. So which means that only 5 days can actually be counted in the 1,080 hours of student time for staff development. Anything above that cannot be counted. And then on the next page, again, we have the listing of the times and the way the law is actually structured at this particular point. So we have school hours and school days, and they're basically one and the same. But those are the revisions that I would bring to you this evening. As I said, none of them monumental. They're basically just housekeeping items in those 5, 6 policies. We have 7. I guess there are, if you count the last 2 as 2 separate ones. And I would ask for your approval on those. Chuck, don't you think we can just do one motion to approve the updates and revisions of those policies?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Ronio,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Shara,
Yes.
Mr. Jester,
Yes.
Thank you. On page 16 of your agenda, I've listed the 2013-2014 calendar. That's not this coming school year, it's the following school year. But it is a mirror image of what we proposed to you back in the last part of May, first part of June on the calendar for 2012-2013. The days simply correspond to the new date on the calendar. Nothing else has been changed. The same days are recognized as holidays, the same staff development times, all of those. They've just been transferred over into the new calendar and placed on the appropriate or the corresponding date. And I would ask your approval on that. Our policy says we will try to approve that a year in advance, and this will be the first time in about 3 years we've been able to get that met. Hopefully we will not have as many revisions on this one as we had on the last one.
Move for approval of the calendar, 2013-2014 calendar.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Sharam,
Yes.
Ms. Ronio,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Jester,
Yes.
Item 7D, consideration and action regarding the bid received from St. John's Baptist Church for the sale of Country Club Heights. Have been working with Mr. Wade on that, and we do have an offer from the church for the building. We did not bring that to you this evening because I'm going to ask you to table that until we have some more conversation regarding that particular item. It is a request for a long-term buy. It is no money up front and pay out over a period of years. I will bring to you that information. Actually, I want to disseminate it to you prior to next Thursday's meeting so that you can see that. But I think we have some legal issues that we're going to have to address on that before we can consider it. And we may want to go back and talk with the church about other possibilities rather than just turning the building over and letting them pay a monthly rent on it. Because we certainly don't, in the long term, we don't want to be a landlord.
Are they the highest bidder or the only?
They are the only bidder at this point. Yeah, they're in the catbird seat when that comes to working with you. But the proposal that they have submitted is, of all the buildings we've sold over the years, it is the smallest total amount and the longest duration of payment. So we're looking at that particular item to see if we might not sit down with them again. Since we have done sealed bids on it, we can now sit down and negotiate with them, and it may be to everybody's interest, or in everybody's interest, for us to do that in order to come up with a better solution for all of us. But right now, the proposal would simply have us become a landlord for the next several years.
Mr. Beecham, technically, the proposal was not responsive to the solicitation because the solicitation was strictly for a sale, not a lease, but certainly we can consider any proposal that anyone wants to put on the table. Last week, in your absence, I was contacted by the representative of a group from well, Reed Eddy's involved, the County Juvenile Bureau's involved, several other agencies that have an interest in possibly leasing and or maybe purchasing the building. So as you point out, we're now in a position that we can negotiate with interested parties, and we need to certainly have further, as you said, we certainly need to have further discussion among ourselves and with representatives of St. James and anyone else that's interested.
And obviously, that we want to bring this to closure as quickly as we can. So, I mean, that's,
I make the motion to table the bid received for the sale of Country Club Heights Elementary till we can negotiate with the St. James Baptist Church.
and we will do everything we can to get this back to you by next week's meeting, which is on August 2nd.
Do we have a second for that?
I second the motion.
Call roll, please.
Mr. Sharam,
Yes.
Mr. Jester,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Ms. Romeo.
Yes.
Item 7E is just an information item. It's the posting of policy EFBCA, which is the Internet and Other Computer Networks Acceptable Use Policy and Internet Safety to the district website. You'll see that on page, actually it's on page 19. The agenda says 18. That item, did we put it in there? I'm sorry. It's on page 18. In order for us to receive and be eligible for E-rate applications, we have to have, as a district, a policy governing internet safety and compliance, and we certainly were acknowledging that to make sure this happens. Mr. DeVecchio is still here. He could probably give you a thorough explanation of that. I guess he's stepped out. Basically, it is for students, it's for employees, and they will be asked, we are required to have students and employees sign an agreement so that they understand the limitations of their use on the internet. That is filtered through the servers that Lawton Public Schools operates. So we will require your approval of us implementing that. Well, we don't actually require your approval. It's an information item just to let you know that we will post this so that it will be available to all employees and all students over the next couple of weeks. And then they will all, at enrollment or at the time they come back to work, will be asked to sign the forms and receive the copy of the policy itself.
Are they at all trained on the use of the computers in the district?
Mrs. Ronio, I would hesitate to say they are trained.
Okay,
There is a brief discussion of the do's and don'ts.
okay,
And then they are all given the copy of the policy, and they all sign that they understand and that they have assumed the responsibility of reviewing that and know the content of it.
okay, thank you.
Some of these are already blocked out, right, where they don't even have access to
Oh,
certain
yes.
social media sites and what stuff.
Yeah, they have limited access already on many things, but it's amazing how smart some of those kids are, how capable they are to be able to circumvent even some of the best filters. So we don't have near as many issues with staff as we do with students breaking us down. But that's all I have for you this evening in terms of the superintendent's report.
Barry, we do have a tracking system in place also to track the websites they visit.
Yes,
correct?
we can tell you every place anybody goes.
Is there anything that needs to be removed from the consent agenda? Entertain a motion then.
Move for approval.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Romeo,
Yes.
Ms. John,
Yes.
Mr. Sharam,
Yes.
Mr. Jester.
Yes. Is there any need for an executive session tonight?
There is not a need for an executive session. I have two items listed there that I was going to bring to you this evening. I want to delay those two items till the August 2nd meeting. There's some confusion on the application deadlines on one of the jobs, and the other job, I think that we will probably reopen for a short period of time for other applicants if they're out there. So if you'll bear with me, I put those on there just in case we were ready. We're not, again, it'll be another week and 2 days before we get back to it, but I would rather do it that way and make sure that we are on the right page and we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's there.
Superintendent's personnel report.
Would ask that you vote to approve the employing, promoting, disciplining, receiving of resignations of individual certified and support salary personnel as they're listed on pages 198 through 200. As you know, this time of the year, we tend to have long personnel reports, and they may not be quite as long this year as they've been in the past, since we've been notified of some additional cuts we'll be taking in state aid. But this is just simply notification of what few teachers we have hired at this point, who has resigned, and any movement that we've made with teachers that went from one school, one building to the other. Then in the support personnel, you can see there are very few at this point that we are offering for your approval.
Move for approval.
Second?
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Ronio?
Yes.
Mr. Sharam?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any new business to be considered? Next board meeting date is Thursday, August 2nd.
Yes, and you'll notice that deviates a little bit from the first Monday, third Thursday. Reason for that being is simply to get some of the hiring done as quickly as possible. Plus, our second meeting was only 9 days after the first meeting, so this gives us a little bit longer to get more on that second meeting, which is on the 16th of August. So,
Does the board have any announcements?
I do. I'd like to make sure that everybody knows that we're going to have OSSBA conference. It's scheduled the 24th, 25th, and 26th of August. If you guys need points, educational points, this would be a good time to get them. We've got a lot of good classes coming up in this particular conference.
Mr. Ronio, this is the one in Oklahoma City?
Yes.
That's okay.
And you can attend one day, part of a day, 2 days, or all 3 of the days, whatever you need to take. And they'll have many of the breakout sessions for those that you need, individual points that you might need.
Any other announcements? I would entertain a motion for adjournment then.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Ronio?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Sharam?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Thank you.